For those who don't know me, I think you've seen me around before, but my name is Father Greg. I serve as the vocation director, and I cover the central part of the United States for the Franciscans. And so I just got back last night from Indianapolis, where there were about maybe 11,000 high school kids. So you can imagine I'm a little bit tired. And I probably have to detoxify myself from all the junk food I ate for the last 3 days. But it's kind of neat because some of you may be aware of Father Casey Cole. He does a YouTube, Breaking in the Habit. He's a big sensation among the young people, so it was great to have him with me, and along with Tito and Jason, two other younger friars. But the great thing is, young people are searching for something to give meaning in their lives. And it was just so great. I saw a lot of students from Roger Bacon High School. They're looking for something. And we as adults have to show them what they're searching for, Jesus Christ. Another neat thing too is in January, I'll be in Columbus because there will be about 20,000 college students in Columbus. And it's gotten so big, it's called Seek. And then another group will be in Dallas and another group in Denver. That's how big this has gotten. And these young people come during their Christmas vacation and they spend a week listening to inspiring talks and sharing the gospel and so forth. So the hope of the church isn't the future, it's the now. The young people who are searching and finding Jesus Christ and finding the beauty of our Catholic faith. So some good things are happening in our world. Now today, the Gospel of Luke, which we read from today, of course, presents the arrival of Jesus, when you look at the beginning of Luke's Gospel, with a lot of contrast, right? He presents three political powers of that time. Herod, king of Judea, Caesar, the ruler of the entire Roman Empire, and the local governor of the area by the name of Quirinius. And yet, in the midst of this political power, we have a baby born in a rather unkingly setting. Most likely it was under the house or an inn where the animals stayed. But there's something special about this baby. And there's a contrast to Herod, Caesar, and Quirinius. The child has no armed security, no earthly throne or ambitions which power comes first no matter what the cost, both material and human. This child's future ambition is that every soul accept the good news of salvation that is offered through him, with him, and in him. And while other political figures of Jesus' time have their time and their accomplishments, they come to nothing compared to what Christ, the true and everlasting King, offers. And then we find another contrast towards the end of Luke's Gospel, which we just heard. The child, born roughly 33 years ago, is now brutally executed because there are some who just cannot accept the rules of his kingdom. That being putting God first, loving one another, even our enemies, forgiving no matter how many times we need to forgive, caring about the blind, the poor, the lame, and all those considered on the fringes of society. There are even some who try and mock him with a sign, the King of the Jews. But this King is Lord of all, the King of the universe, and as the angel Gabriel announced to Mary, and of his kingdom there will be no end. The Feast of Christ the King was established by Pope Pius XI in 1925 in his encyclical Quas Primas, and it was created to combat the rising secularism and the atheism at that time, especially under communism, by reminding people Christ is the universal King, and his authority supersedes all earthly rulers. And while it was promulgated by Pope Pius XI, it was the efforts of a devout Catholic woman named Marta de Italia that influenced the Pope to make this proclamation. And so each year, the Feast of Christ the King ends our liturgical year, and we will begin a new liturgical year next Sunday as we begin the first Sunday of Advent. And we'll go into what are called the Cycle A readings. So the intent of this feast is the same as what Pius XI wanted, to combat the rising secularism and the atheism that seems to have gotten a good foothold, especially in Europe and North America. And it begs the question we all have to ask ourselves: who is the king of my life? Who is the person that I owe my ultimate allegiance, my faithfulness, my subjection? If it isn't Jesus, then we need to re-examine our commitment as his disciples. Any society, any country or nation without a leader falters, and it has no direction. And while we may not always agree with our political leaders here in America, at least we can use the power of our vote to make change, as a president is elected every 4 years, a House of Representatives every 2 years, and a senator every 6 years. And the terms, when you really think of it, are pretty short, and they can only accomplish so much. But Jesus is the eternal King and reign without end. And look at all the benefits that we have by being baptized into this King and into his kingship. Listen again to those powerful words we heard from St. Paul's letter to the Colossians in our second reading. Let us give thanks to the Father, who has made you fit to share in the inheritance of the holy ones in light. He delivered us from the power of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. In other words, brothers and sisters, our politicians can promise us a lot of things, and maybe they can accomplish some things, but it is all transitory and fleeting. But our King, Jesus Christ, doesn't mince words and never fails or falls back on his promises. Forgiveness of sins, everlasting happiness with everlasting life. So the question remains, who is the king of my life? Who is the one person I give my ultimate allegiance, my ultimate faithfulness, my ultimate subjection, which then alters the course of my life? Because all of this is reflected in my Christian discipleship and treating each person with dignity and respect, especially the poor and the outcast. It's how I ask for the grace to forgive others, especially when I've been hurt deeply. It's to be a peacemaker and living a life that radiates inner joy rather than negativity and condemnation. So remember, kingdoms and nations, all with their kings and leaders, both good and bad, have risen and fallen over these thousands of years. But Jesus and his kingdom will always be here, forever. Amen.